Hello everybody, it's Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys should become patrons over on Patreon or join our Discord server. So this is a patron request from Aaron, one of our $100 patrons, I think. So this is about Jaune being what he calls the tragic fallen hero. So I think that this is actually interesting and is going to be one of the better Jaune videos that we discussed. He is not Mega Shadow Dragon. He is giving us some good Jaune related content. So here we go. So here.
Did you ever hear anything from the guy who paid for the
Okay,
Shadow
so I
Dragon?
actually want to talk about that, and I don't want to derail Aaron's video too much. But here was basically the conversation. No offense to Hunter and you, but you two have to complain about grammar. It's not important.
No way! While complaining about grammar, he put a grammatical mistake? About the grammar, it's not important. Well...
That's still a little sketchy.
That is still like...
So this is Mega Shadow Dragon, not Aaron. So I'm just gonna preface this with, we've done a lot of bad Jaune theories. That's what we're talking about.
He doesn't use the right form of it's in that.
I know, and so I said full offense, but it makes his theories worse because you can't understand what he's saying. And then he said, I'm not offended, it just gets repetitive to hear you guys complain about bad grammar. And then I was like, well, his theories repeat each other over and over again.
Like,
he repeats the same paragraphs.
Like, if you like this guy's theories, then, like, you probably are okay with repetitive shit anyways.
And then he asked us why we're complaining that he's racist, because he can't find anything racist on his Tumblr feed, and I'm like, bitch ass, it's not that hard. Like, scroll through a little bit.
This guy claims not to be Mega Shadow Dragon.
Yeah. But I disagree. But this is why Aaron has come in, because Aaron looked at all this and was like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, this guy is doing a disservice to Jaune, and so that's why we're doing this for you, Aaron. Because Aaron was like, I need to save Cal from Mega Shadow Dragon, I need to give her some good Jaune stuff, and this was his idea. So this is an Aaron's theory, not Mega Shadow. But just to give you guys that background, this is why this video was happening, because we need some actual good Jaune content in our lives.
Need some things that aren't empty calories.
So here's the idea. So basically, the Jaune is this tragic fallen hero who fails, like, his own goals, but leads everybody else to a victory. So he said, like, probably RWBY and the other girls. So Jaune's failure will have permanent costs, like how Yang lost her arm. He will lose something to be forever sacred, basically. And so here's the idea that I see for this, is that Jaune really... he does his best, but all of his
fuckery.
Not his fuckery. All of his success only leads to success of others and never to himself. So if you want to take, for example, you know, Weiss, you know, getting impaled, like, he didn't get a personal success out of that other than really unlocking his semblance. What really happened is that Weiss and them won based off of his action. So I kind of made this sort of comparison. It's like if I studied for a math test with Hunter, like if I basically tutored Hunter in math, but then I failed the math test while Hunter passed. Like, that's sort of the comparison that I have here, so that Jaune is helping everybody, and then everybody else sort of wins, based off of what he's done, but he never gets anything out of it. And, to kind of continue, I think that is why Jaune will, in the end up leaving Ozpin, because as much as it is fulfilling to help everyone else, he isn't able to kind of complete his own goals. He was never able to, he's never able to be the hero himself. His endeavors are always helping someone else, and I feel like that's super interesting for his character, because if he ever leaves, I feel like that would be a good reason that he feels more like a pawn than on equal footing, because all of his actions only end up helping others, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it would be like, again, if I helped you to study for something, Hunter, but then I failed, like, no, bitch, I helped you, I should get the same mark as you, like, I should be, you know, the same as you, right? And so there's that kind of idea there, and I just find that idea interesting. So do you want to say something before I keep going on, I guess?
I can appreciate, like, the idea that his successes are... I think that also would have say something about maybe the idea of RWBY, that it's similar to the Harry Potter stories, that it's a story about collaboration and about how collaboration breeds the best results. That Jaune whenever he has victories, it's usually victories for himself, but ultimately victories for other people.
Yeah, because, like, unlocking your semblance is cool, but that didn't necessarily, like, you didn't win the fight with your semblance. You helped Weiss win the fight with your semblance. You understand what I mean? And so that's really, I think that now that his semblance is revealed, that only gives weight to this idea that it's more like, say for an example, Jaune amplifies Weiss later on, and so Weiss kills Jacques. Right? And so that that's a personal victory for Weiss based off of Jaune's help. It's not necessarily a personal victory for Jaune. Like, maybe Jaune didn't like Jacques either, but, like, you know, it was just...
Should happen.
Exactly. So that's kind of what I'm saying, and I think that's a really interesting idea, because then in the future, what if he's like, I wanted to be a hero, and it's not that, you know, I don't feel like I'm making a difference with you guys, but I'm making a difference for everybody else and not for me. Like, I want something for myself, and I don't think that's selfish. If anything, that's just like, you know, after you work hard for other people for so long, you want something for you.
Oh,
and I think that's fair,
but
you
maybe
know?
there could be something about, like, how the idea that he always wanted to be, you know, the captain. He wanted to be the person who had sole victory. He wanted to be that idea of a hero.
Yeah.
And instead, he sort of gets...
He's basically a support role,
yeah, he becomes
right?
a support, but then he gets the most success from
being a
role.
support.
And so there could
But the
be
problem
almost
is
development
like,
for that.
yeah, and then, like, the problem I see with that, though, is, like, I don't know, like, if you never win for yourself, like, wouldn't that make you kind of sad? Like, think about this YouTube channel for a minute, and how you're never able to do anything for yourself, and you're always doing stuff for me, but it results in our victory, in a sense.
No,
like, you know what I mean?
It's significantly your victory, but either way.
Exactly, and so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're doing something for me, but I'm the one who's always winning. You're not necessarily winning, right?
Yeah.
So when you
I
really
love how
think
you're hitting it home that I'm wasting my time on
No,
this.
no,
Like,
I don't mean
I
don't mean it like that, but I'm saying that, like, don't you think about that sometimes? How, like, your work that you're putting into this channel, it's really only helping me. In the end.
I know.
It's not
I think
that
about
much
that
helping
constantly.
You. I know,
I
and
bring
so
it up
wouldn't you?
in the videos.
Wouldn't you feel like bad, like if you were Jaune, if that same thing was like the same thing is happening for you? So don't you feel
mocking
me? Maybe, but don't you feel like that relates to Jaune? Like, don't you feel like that's sort of the same thing that's happening to Jaune, but it's happening to you? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, can't you see where Jaune may be frustrated and not want to help anymore, and then maybe they'll have to convince him that that's the life of being a hero is not personal wins, but it's wins for the world, and then maybe Jaune's like, well, maybe I don't want to be a personal... Like, maybe I don't want to necessarily be a hero, right? Because I think that being heroic is about the good of the world, right, in Ozpin's eyes especially. But I think that what Jaune necessarily wanted, what Jaune wanted, I think, was not necessarily good of the world, but, like, personal heroism, right? Like, saving other people and getting, like, recognition for it as yourself, instead of saving the world and not being recognized because nobody else knows that Salem is happening, right? Because think about it, Jaune and the others, but, like, let's just talk about Jaune, because I think he would have the most sort of issue with this, given how his character has been developed, that they are basically saving the world, but nobody knows that the world is at risk. Right? Obviously, the police know that the White Fang were taking down we're taking down Haven, right? But nobody knows about Salem and the relics and the maidens, like that. Like, I don't want to say sometimes we don't want to do good deeds unless we get seen for it. But sometimes we don't want to do good unless we get seen for it, you know what I mean? And I don't want to mean that, like, in a selfish sense, that we won't do things for people unless we get recognized, but if we do things for people over and over and over again and never get any credit for them, that has to be irritating on people.
But then what do you think is the outcome of this?
What do you mean, of this?
Yeah,
like,
how will this
I think that there's two ways. There's Jaune leaving the team and being his own huntsman for a while, and then recognizing that maybe he sort of misses what he thought he originally hated. But then there's also the idea that Ozpin will convince Jaune that being a true hero, is winning for the world, and so he has to smarten up and recontextualize what he believes being a hero will be, right? And I'm gonna pull out some philosophy for you guys for a second. There is an idea within philosophy that if you get married, you will regret it, and if you do not get married, you will regret it. Either way, there will be regret over your action. And so whether Jaune leaves, he will regret it, or whether Jaune stays, he will regret it, but he will always regret it, because there will always be regret. Because obviously you can't really necessarily have both. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so there's that sort of idea, and I think that sort of like nihilism would be interesting sort of to see in RWBY. Or at least it's Nietzsche, anyway, I think that said that either way there will always be regret, because he was not a very happy person.
Nietzsche was fucking miserable, but I digress.
And so that's my kind of idea, is that maybe Jaune falls into that, you know, sort of idea that there will be regret over what you do either way, that there is no right way to decide something, because you will always think, but what if I didn't? Or what if I did? Like, what if I did get married? Or what if I didn't get married? You know what I mean? Like, you will always think about that what if, and so you will never be happy. And I feel like that would be very interesting for Jaune, because maybe what Jaune would finally come to the conclusion to is that it's not about being a hero or not being a hero, but it's more that whether he leaves or stays with Ozpin, he will never be happy because he's lost Pyrrha. And so that, at the end of the day, would have been the one thing that in every universe, if he still had Pyrrha with him, he would have been happy and not have regretted it. I think that would be a very interesting romantic take.
I never liked that, like, tying your entire, like, the type of romances where it's like, my entire worth is
But she's
is
dead,
tied to you.
so that's the thing, is that he'd never
Unless
know.
it's, like, critical of that. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Is that
if it treats it like it's a good thing, then I won't like that.
But he'd never know if he
would
would tie all his worth to Pyrrha, because she's not here. You know what I mean? And so I think that he'll find that whether it's about being a true hero or being like a personal hero, as I call it, that it's not really about that in the surface. It's about him having regret that whatever he decides to do, Pyrrha won't be here to see it, and that's what he really regrets the most, that he's not able to move past that. And so when Ozpin and him in the future, let's say, are discussing what it means to be a hero, Ozpin sort of uncovers that for Jaune, it's not about leaving or staying or saving the world with them or not saving the world. That at the end of the day, it's about Pyrrha and losing Pyrrha, and I think that's compelling in a way, because it's sort of projecting, it's sort of covering up your true problem, in a sense, because I think that in this case, Jaune doesn't necessarily mind supporting the team and helping save the world, but I think that he would think that he does just because what he's really missing just isn't here anymore, and he sort of has to move on and move past that and find a way to get over what happened, you know what I mean? And I think that's very compelling, I guess, you know?
Yes.
Because it would be about him realizing that his true problems are with Pyrrha and he has to sort that out, not necessarily that, like, oh, I will never be anything if Pyrrha's not with... It's more the opposite, that it's too late now, and so he needs to be something without Pyrrha around. Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's kind of all I wanted to say. So I think that we're pretty much good here. If you guys enjoyed this, I hope that you guys will join our Discord server or become patrons over on Patreon, and we will see you later. Bye-bye!